This episode of the Codpast has been brought to you by ATEC, the Assistive Technology Exhibition and Conference. To find out more, go to www.atecconference.com.
The Codpast.
Hello and welcome to the Codpast. I'm your host Sean Douglas, and this is the place where you'll hear right brain stories from interesting individuals. Today's guest has one hell of a story to tell. He's an author, a film producer and a public speaker, but in the past things were very, very different. Today's guest on the Codpast is Jason Cook. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So as we said in the intro, you're an author. You've published 4 books, is it?
So far 4 books, and there is others in the pipeline.
The first 3 were gangster books, and they're quite autobiographical, aren't they?
That's correct, yeah. They're based on my own experiences as a young lad getting involved in drugs, gun crime and gangsterism.
And the first book has actually been made into a feature film.
That's right, yeah. The first film we've had been scripted, so now we're obviously putting the pieces together to make the film.
As I said, the books are autobiographical, but as an author, I guess you have to have a little bit of poetic license. But, I mean, for you, what was your life like when you were kind of in that world?
So I grew up on an estate, and to fit in with my older peers, I started using drugs, taking cannabis, ecstasy tablets, speed, and that then led on to meeting dealers and obviously then supplying drugs, and then eventually used to enforce drug money and debts and sell drugs as well at the same time to pay off my own addiction drug debts.
I think, you've told me a lot of stories about what you got up to and things that you did, but one thing that was most surprising to me was that you weren't talking about some kind of hard-boiled inner city estate. You were living in Boreham Wood, which is kind of like a provincial town in Hertfordshire. Yeah. And all of this stuff was going on that is probably beneath the radar of most people. Yeah,
I mean, it's ironic because we lived in Hackney. My mum lived in Hackney, and I was there at a young age, and lots of things were going on at Hackney at the time. And they asked, my mum said, right, we're going to move you away from Hackney to give you a fresh start and make things better, for me as a young person. So I arrived in Boreham Wood. By the time I was 12. I was, using drugs. I was involved with, gangs and so it doesn't matter where you are or where you go. These things are happening everywhere, on every street in every town.
A lot of people that read your books, the closest maybe they've got to the lifestyle that you were living was maybe watching Trainspotting or something like that. Yeah. And you told me one story which really kind of embodies exactly what kind of a world you were in and how dangerous it can be. And you told me about when you I think you were at a friend's house and some gangsters kicked down the door and were demanding money, and somehow you ended up with the debt, and that started a chain of events that you were so stuck in that you just couldn't get out. I mean, can you talk me through that story?
Yeah, so I was behind on cocaine debts. We robbed some paintings from a shop. I drove to my friend's house. He'd said, anytime you want to come to us, come and see us, and you can stay the night, or it's a safe place for you to be. So I arrived there with the stolen paintings. Went in there and I was shocked to see that the place that was really nice had now more or less bare. So I said, look, can I stay? And he said, yeah. So he took me upstairs and there was just like a mattress. He said, yeah, you can stay there. And I was like, oh, of all the places. And so I've come from one place now to feel safe, and now I'm in another place that's even worse. So laid down about 3:30 in the morning. I would crash, like banging, like the door had been kicked off, and I thought, oh, it's the old bill. They've followed me. They're going to get the paintings. And I could hear like thick Jamaican accents, really Jamaican accents. I was thinking, wow, that can't be the place. Next thing, the door opens, I see the light, and he's got a sawn-off shotgun and tells me to come downstairs. So he gets me downstairs, lays me on the floor. The door's all smashed. They're all in there rummaging around. Nothing really in there for them to take. Shouting. Where's the money? Where's the money? I want the money. And I was like, I need to be out of here. I was really scared. I can just see out the corner of my eye. So there's 3 of them, 3 yardies, big yardie guys, yeah. She arrives then, which is his girlfriend, and one of them grabs her by the hair and slings on to say, and then she says stop because they whacked Steve with the gun, grabbed her off the settee, got her bag and shake the bag. As they shook the bag, some money come out, so he grabbed that and then he was like shouting at her, really like shouting at her, saying, where's the rest of the money, where's the money? And she said, oh, that's all I've got, but I'll come back tomorrow and I'll get some more. And then he got furious and whacked her with the back of his hand. And I was just like, look, I'll pay the money. I'll give you the money. I just shouted, I'll give you the money. So he grabbed me and said, right, we're going to go and get the money. Get to my mum's house, and I'm thinking, oh my days, I've just bought yardie gunmen to my mum's house. What am I going to do now? And I thought, right, this is what I can do. I go in the garage and I'm looking about, seeing what I could find. And then I see it in the corner of my briefcase. And I think, yeah, I'll give them the briefcase, they'll go. So I slide him the case. He gets the case with the gun, tells me to get in the car. And they drive me to Hackney. Get in there, get pushed into the front room. And there's a big yardie there, massive muscles, dreadlocks. And he's got stuff, all counting stuff and money on the table and the gun. And the other guy comes in and gives him the briefcase. And he says, we've collected the money from Steve. This is the guy that's paying it. So he opens up the briefcase and it sort of, everything stops. And for that stop moment, I was just so scared. And he lifts up the briefcase, nothing in there. He just throws the briefcase at the wall, picks up the gun off the table, jumps across the table, sticks the gun straight into my mouth, and he's shouting at me all this different stuff. And as he pulls the gun out, one of the girls comes running in, pushes the gun goes off. I lay down onto the floor, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I was so scared I weed myself. Then he says to me, right, you're going to have to pay back this money. You know, you're here, you've seen us, you need to pay back the money. We know where you live, so you're going to have to do something for us. All this just because I've been at my friend's house. So about 5 days went by, and I thought, oh, nothing's happened, it's all good. And then I came out of Camden Palace. I turned to go across the road and I could see the Mercedes there. And they got me in the car and they said, right, you need to get your passport. You're going to have to come and do something for us to pay this debt off. And I was like, well, how much is the debt? It said £10,000. So the following day I had to meet them, went down to Jamaica. A Jeep had pulled up and they drove me into the shanty town. They strapped all the gear to me.
And what was the gear? Was that cocaine or heroin?
I think it was cocaine. Blocks of cocaine it was. So they strapped it to me and then sellotaped it to me. Told me that I had to do this, and if I didn't do it, they would kill my family, and I would get killed if I didn't do it. They would kill me, take me out to the back and bury me, and then they would come and do all my mum's house and burn her and all that and kill them in the house. Get into Heathrow, and I could see customs officers, see police walking about. There's like 2 tunnel things, one to declare, one not to declare. So as I get to the declare, nothing to declare, the customs officer walks forward to me. And he says, can you come with me? Everything's slow and the voice is like, can you come with me? And I was just about to lift up and go, yeah, not a problem. You know, I've got it. And as I turn, he just goes, come with me through this way. So I was like, right, okay. So I walked through with him. Mm-hmm. He said, can you put your bag on the declare, on the thing? Went through the bag. He said, okay, that's fine. So I just want you to come through this way and I want you to walk through the detector. All I wanted to do is just lift up the top and go, look, it's here. You know, take it. Walk through the detector and bing. As I've turned around to show, so I've gone like that to put my hands up as if to say, you know, you've caught me. He goes, oh, it's your belt. But that's where the gear was there. So I've taken the belt off and I've given him the buckle. He's gone, right, okay. He's gone, can you walk through it again? So I walk through it again. This time, the 2 police officers have come forward now and the other guard. And I'm thinking, they're just playing games with me. So he goes, right, okay, go and get your bag and you can go. And I was like, when you just look puzzled, I looked at everyone and I'm thinking, and as I walked through to come out to the main bit, he's come walking around fast, going, whoa, stop. I thought, this is it, they've got me. That's it, they're done. And he goes, you've forgotten something. I was like, what? And I was just about again to go like that and show him. I said, look, it's here. And he goes, there's your belt. I was like, and as I walked through, the other security guard, customs guard said, this happens all the time. People get nervous and forget their belts. And I thought, do you know what? This probably happens all the time. People do carry drugs and this is happening all the time. And I just thought, wow, how lucky I was.
As someone in that world, inevitably you ended up as a statistic. So one of the 50% of people that are in the prison system that have dyslexia or issues with literacy.
I ended up in prison twice. The first one was for 9 months and it was sort of different then because it was like a status symbol. So I went in and came out, everyone thought it was great. I thought it was great. I continued carrying guns, weapons and using drugs and selling drugs. When I went in the second time, it was a bit more harsh. I was in there 4 years and that's when it sort of changed. That's when I sort of realised that I had something wrong with me with regards to dyslexia. When you first go in, they test you in a sense to see what sort of person you are and whether you want help. And at the time, he could see that I wanted help and said to me, like, if you go on the drug-free wing, you get education, support and help with your addiction. And then that's when they did the tests and realised that I was dyslexic.
And I mean, in hindsight, when you went into jail and prison, do you remember kind of meeting people that you did have a shared experience with school and writing and literacy? Was there an abundance of people like that there?
Yeah, there was very much abundance in there. Lots of people. There was. Don't get me wrong. There was lots of quite educated people, but the majority of us were dyslexic or couldn't read or couldn't write. Some would ask other people to do their stuff for them, like write letters and things like that, because that's what you have in the outside world, is the letters coming in that keeps you motivated in prison as well.
Do you think that was a reason for a lot of people being there? Because it's not like they could go and get an admin job in an office or something, coming in and going back out and not having those basic tools to get on in life. Do you think that's the reason why a lot of people kept coming back to prison?
Sometimes people get pushed away and you feel withdrawn. So you look at other ways to go out and get money, and sometimes that is criminality.
Do you think it's something to do with self-respect? Because again, going into those jobs where you can't perform to the potential that you have within you can really hit your self-esteem. And going out and doing crime, a lot of people say drug dealers are actually entrepreneurs on the wrong side of a coin. And if you can go out there and use your brain in the way that gives you power, do you think that's another attractive thing to crime?
Yeah, it's very much attractive. Drug dealers are good at what they're doing, but they're using it to the wrong way. Whereas in a normal job, you're pushed down and you feel inadequate. You're still trying to do your best, and then they say to you, sorry, we're going to have to let you go. You know why they're letting you go, but you just you think to yourself, well, if they can't help me, then I have to do my own means, and a lot of the own means is the easy route, and that easy route becomes crime.
So, you were in a pretty low place. You were in prison, almost 4-year stint in prison. So how did you come from that into being a published author?
I was very lucky because the guard that I had, he was testing us all the time. Then he said to us, go on to the drug free wing, get yourself clean, do something with your life. So I said, okay. And then he said education. I was like, oh, education. And there used to be a girl that used to come in and support the education, one of the prison officers that did education. And she could see me just looking around, and she said, oh, you're just here to just pass the time? I said, well, yeah. She said, well, have you ever thought about doing anything? I said, well, yeah, I like acting and things like that. She said, okay, well, what about writing, about acting? I said, okay, well, I can have a go.
And now a word from our sponsors. ATEC, the Assistive Technology Exhibition and Conference, comes to London on the 6th of June 2017. ATEC is the one-day event where disability professionals in post-16 education and the workplace can join a host of expert keynote speakers and over 25 exhibitors and solutions providers. You can also get practical CPD training at one of the many scheduled seminars. For more information or to book your ticket, go to www.atecconference.com. And now, back to the show.
She said, okay, well, what about writing, about acting? I said, okay, well, I can have a go. So I took a week to actually start writing, and started writing small things that were just gobbledygook, just messed up. I couldn't punctuate it, spell it. It was all just sentences with long lines and nothing going on for it. So she said, maybe writing's not for you. And I was like, maybe it isn't. So anyway, when we went on to the drug-free one, we had A&E and the STEP program to help people on drugs, and the STEP program to come off and for their addictions and stuff. And part of the STEP program was to write about our experiences. So I was like, wow, this is something I can tune into, so I can write about this because it's my experiences, but how am I going to write it? So I went back to her and I said, look, for the STEP program, I've got to do the writing. I've got to write about what happens in my life, where I've been, what happened to me and the people around me. So she said, okay, well, sit down, take a deep breath, and we'll go through it. So she sat with me and we started to write, and I was just telling her, she was like, wow. She said, this has happened to you? I said, yeah, these are the things that have happened to me. She said, okay, we've got to get all this out. And she sort of coached me into bringing up my self-esteem, looking at my work, not just putting the red line from it. She actually sat with me and said, right, what are you trying to say? What is it you want to say? So I'd explain in my own words, and she would then type away with me and say, right, this is how to put it. Because as a dyslexic, I would try and put the sentence together, but I'd be telling the end in the beginning. So she'd then turn it around for me, and it would make sense of what I was trying to actually say. So after about 6 months of actually doing it, we managed to get a skeleton draft of my life. She said, fantastic. She said, when you go out, you've got one more paragraph to finish, and then it'll be finished. So I was like, okay. So I came out and thought about it and continued to write. And then I took it to an editor, and she said, this is amazing. This is about your life. We're going to tell people about this. I was like, really? She was like, yeah. She said, we're going to make it happen for you. We sent it to a publisher. The publisher said, look, we like it. We can publish it for you. We'll do a deal with you on the publishing. And the first book came out. And then I approached W.H. Smith's and said, look, I've got a book. I'm a local lad. Would you do a signing in here? And he said, well, how many books do you think you're going to sell? I said, well, to be honest, I don't know. I said, how many did the last author sell? And he went 40 books. I said, well, I can do 40 books, even though I didn't know. So he said, okay, if you sell 40 books, I'll write to another store and we'll get you in there as well. The books then went into W.H. Smith's in my local area. And then I went in there to collect the invoice and everything. He said, this is amazing. And I said, yeah, I know. He said, no. He said, it's amazing. He said, you've actually outsold Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code in the local store. I was like, what? After all that, from the age of 12 onwards, struggling with English, maths, and here I am being associated with someone like Dan Brown. I was like, wow, it's incredible. And incredible for someone with dyslexia as well. So that was a great achievement, a pinnacle for me at that time, when you've been in employment with other people and saying, you're not good enough, you can't do that, this ain't right, and having to leave. One, because you feel insecure and not important, and two, because of the criminal record through drugs.
So in a sense, if you hadn't been tested, if that prison guard hadn't recognised that you wanted help, I mean, do you still think you'd be in the world of crime?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was an easy route. Because I struggled and obviously wanted that respect and wanted to feel that I could achieve. I went into criminality, and through my peers, it was a sense of belonging. It was easy. I was easily led because I was withdrawn. I struggled with school environment, so I was always on the back leg. I was always below, and messing around, and I naturally led me into crime.
And you've successfully come through that. I mean, through your journey, can you see any ways how more people could be helped to recognise how they could use their talents in a more legitimate way?
I think if dyslexia is seen at an earlier age, if I'd known at an earlier age, then maybe I could have gone on to write the books and done things at an earlier age instead. But I had to take that path to realise. And if they hadn't tested me in prison, then I wouldn't have known that I had dyslexia.
And do you think dyslexia in your way of thinking, and maybe your past has helped you in what you're doing now, because you kind of taken the literary world by storm, and you had a lot of help doing that. But now you're doing a similar thing with the film world, because you don't have any experience in the film world, and you've come to it. And I've worked in media and broadcasting for years, and I've known people who've written great scripts and have loads of experience in the industry, but they haven't been as successful and gotten as far as you have with getting this film project off the ground.
I think for me, what it is for me, because I've got dyslexia, I try to just keep going. Lots of things have happened where you still get the pushback because you send emails out and people are like, well, you can't even send me an email, let alone write a book or write a script. But nowadays I can rise above that and accept that. Just be positive. I think I'm just positive about dyslexia now and overcoming it by just keep persisting, keep writing. And I've learned to try and do it myself. Whereas you could write a script and give it to someone and they go, yeah, that's great, let's make it happen. Where I've just gone, right, okay, let's not make it happen. If you don't want to make it happen, I'll make it happen myself and try it and put all my focuses into making it happen and understand that, dyslexia is a part of that. And not only is it a part of that, it's like a gift in a sense, because it gives you that challenging moments and it gives you that bright ideas, it gives you that creativeness that comes in that you rely on, that helps you through.
And even when you were at school, when you were in the workplace, did you feel that you could have been a writer? Because I think one thing that really interests me now, and I speak to a lot of people, and there seems to be this thing about knowing that there's something inside you that you have a talent for, but not being able to demonstrate it, and not working out how to get it out of you. Did you have that feeling, and was that with writing? Yeah,
I found that I had all this creativeness, lots of good stories, but to actually, I could talk the story, but still struggle on bits. But it was still there, and I knew exactly where I wanted it to. But actually, to get it down on paper was the difficult part, because even sometimes I put it down on paper, I could only understand some of it. And people would say, oh, can't you understand your own writing? And I'd be like, no, I can't. So, but yeah, I think if I was able to do that, then I probably would have been doing creative writing for a long time, because it was there, the creativeness was there. Yeah. But I suppressed some of it because I thought, I can't tell anyone about it, it's useless. They'd mark it wrong, or they'd put a big line from it and say, right, do it again, or go back and learn your spellings, and you think, oh. So yeah, I think if I could have done it earlier, then I probably would have. I used to, when in English, I used to write loads and loads of stories. They say write two pages, and I'd write 15 pages. But then they would say, "Oh, it's rubbish," it doesn't make sense, or where's the ending? Where's the beginning? And I think some of it, to me, it was the ending and the beginning. But because they couldn't understand that as an English process, they would just disregard it and say, right, it's not correct. There was one teacher that used to say, well, you've got great ideas. He said, but, because you can't put it on paper, them great ideas are going to fall to the wayside. So I hope one day I'll meet him.
Well, that's interesting, because every single person I've spoken to, people who have ended up as writers, whether they're comedians or whatever, there's always been one teacher that's looked past the spelling and the grammar and the punctuation. And it's happened to me as well, and said, your content's really good. It's always like that one comment, and they don't push you to progress.
No.
And I guess people listening to, if you have had that, maybe it's something you need to pursue, a career in writing. When someone said, forget about the spelling, just look at what's there. I think one other thing that really interests me is a lot of people who have been successful with dyslexia say the point when they got successful was when they started doing things their own way. Yeah. And we kind of spoke about that a bit earlier. But I just wonder, do you remember that first moment, that eureka moment, where you just realised, actually, I've been trying to do it this way all the time. Actually, my ideas work and they get results.
Yeah, I found that when I was working, someone said to me, you should just stick with one genre. And I was writing, and they said, you're doing too much. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's too much for them, but not for me. And in the past, I would have shied away from that, going, yeah, maybe I am, and I'll just concentrate on this and wait. So the eureka moment was when I was writing, I think it was Rats in Space, and the Masonic coins come up, and I was like, oh yeah, Masonic coins of the Roman Empire, that was cool. So I made notes of that, and other people would look at you and frown and go, you've just started writing Rats in Space, why are you doing that?
And Rats in Space is your children's book.
Yeah. So the eureka moment was, well, maybe for them it's not, but for me I will continue. And I finished that and managed then to write the treatment for Masonic coins of the Roman Empire. And the same thing as that was happening, I would do more and more. And so eventually the 10 films came, and now we've got 10 films scripted. And nearly ready. So that eureka moment was, if I'd listened to them, it wouldn't have happened. I would have just been in one genre, one book, doing that, waiting for that to happen for a long period of time, and the other creativeness would have been like boxed away, and I wouldn't have achieved what I've gone on to achieve at the moment. So the eureka moment was, maybe I should just listen to myself, my instincts, do my writing the way I need to write how I want to write, take in the knowledge, and write it down before you forget it, so then you can look at it and think, okay, yeah, and then get people's opinions. But if you've got that ambition and that creativeness that you want in your way, then you should do it your way.
And it's so difficult to trust that instinct, isn't it? Because it's like everything in your being is telling you this is the right way, because you can see the end goal and the bigger picture. It's almost as if you're standing on a bridge and everyone's saying jump, 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 and every being in your body, it says that is the wrong thing to do, this is not the right way. But you get convinced by the people saying jump, and you jump, and then it's always the wrong thing, no matter how persuasive the argument of the other people and how logical it sounds. That it's wrong, and then you listen to them and you do it, and you end up jumping off a bridge. So I mean, it's been fascinating talking to you today, Jason. I just want to know, if people want to get hold of your books or learn more about your film projects, or help finance your film projects, how can they do that?
Sure. They can get in contact with me. My email is jasoncook@ntlworld.com. The books are available on the Waterstones and Amazon website, and WH Smiths and selected WH Smiths. We're hoping to go out to more WH Smiths with the books. They can also look at my website, which is Weebly Author Jason Cook. And they can also join us on Facebook, which is the author producer page, and we'll keep them up to date with what's going on with the films. We're open for sponsorship for the film, and looking for investors to come and be part of that, not only this film but the quadrilogy of films. So Weebly Author Jason Cook. You can contact me directly at jasoncook@ntlworld.com, and also Waterstones, WH Smiths have got my books, and we're hoping to bring them out into more stores and do more signings.
Fantastic. Well, Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, thank you.
The Codpast is an audio production from extraordinaire.tv.
And that was this month's dose of Dyslexic Radio Heaven. So, in case you didn't know, the Codpast is not just a podcast. Oh no. The Codpast podcast is just part of a bigger online portal called the Codpast. Let me explain. So the Codpast is also a free online treasure trove of videos, podcasts, articles, and a whole host of resources that will entertain you and educate you in equal parts. So where can I find such a resource, I hear you cry? Well, it's easy. You can find it all at thecodpast.org. But if you do want to subscribe to the podcast called The Codpast, you can do that at Stitcher, iTunes or SoundCloud. Just type The Codpast into the search bar of any of those platforms, hit subscribe, and new episodes will be beamed directly to your listening device. Also, if you feel The Codpast brings value to your life, then please think about making a donation. It's those donations that help The Codpast keep going, and for those of you that have already donated, you know who you are. We'd like to say a massive thank you for your generosity. Also, if you can't make a donation, then please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. For some reason, it helps the show's visibility, so if you can do that, we'd much appreciate that too. So I'll be back next month, but until next time, enlighten your right brain at thecodpast.org.